Okay. It is a pleasure to welcome you here, Titus, from the CBBC and the NYU community. I saw this film initially at Sundance, and my obsession became from the second I saw this film was to check the papers every day. Well, not the papers, you know what I mean, to see when this film was going to be sold, because I really could not stand the idea that people were not going to be able to see this film. I think it took about 4 months, right? It was a long 4 months. And then my second obsession and my wish was to figure out how to get this film here for our community. And then I think I stalked Titus. And so I'm really grateful that we were able to make this happen. Painter, sculptor, filmmaker, installation artist, Titus Kaphar examines the history of representation by transforming its styles and mediums to emphasize physicality and dimensionality of the canvas and the material themselves. His practice seeks to dislodge history from its status as the past in order to unearth its contemporary relevance. In doing so, Kaphar's aim is to reveal something of what has been lost and to investigate the power of a rewritten history. Kaphar received his MFA from the Yale School of Art and is a distinguished recipient of numerous awards and prizes, including the 2018 MacArthur Fellowship, a 2016 Robert R. Rochberg Artist as Activist Grant, and a 2015 Creative Capital Grant, among others. His work has been included in solo exhibitions at Seattle Art Museum, the Studio Museum in Harlem, MoMA PS1, the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, DC, among others. Kaphar's commitment to social engagement has led him to move beyond traditional modes of artistic expression to establish Next Haven, a new national arts model that empowers emerging artists and curators of color through education and access. Now in its 5th year of operation, Next Haven accelerates professional careers in the arts through intergenerational mentorship, professional development, and cross-sector collaboration. Exhibiting Forgiveness, the incredible film that we all just watched together, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2024 and had been nominated for 6 NAACP Image Awards, including Outstanding Independent Motion Picture. So we're going to remix how I usually do this. It's usually me in conversation with someone solidly for about 20 minutes, and then I open up for a few questions from the audience. So Titus and I decided that we're just going to kick it for a minute. We're going to open up to you guys early, and the conversation will be a back and forth between Titus, myself, and you. And so think of your questions. We're inviting you into the process. This talk is largely for me also about process and exploring process. And we invite you in and we welcome you in. Thank you. One of the things that struck me about this film is that I think that when you are pretty kind of famous in one medium and doing one thing, sometimes we box ourselves in and think, I'm this thing. So can I really be that thing? And you found such a beautiful symmetry between your visual language and narrative and storytelling. And so I just want to talk a little bit about what was this process for you, moving from painting to writing a screenplay. Not the deep side.
I mean, I think the truth of the matter is I didn't set out to make a film initially. That's not really what I was trying to do. I was trying to engage with my sons. My oldest, some of you know him, is going off to college next year. And That scene in the film where Tarrell goes to the basement to meet with his father and sets up a camera. I did that, and after that, my kids wanted to know something. I made this little documentary that I chose not to share with the world. I showed it one time and then got up in front of the audience like this and said, I just want to let y'all know I'm never showing this again. And at this point, my son is 18 years old. And when he was younger, I'd say, I'll tell you more when you're older. I'll tell you more when you're older. I'll tell you more when you're older. And it just felt like it's the time to do that. So I started writing. I would wake up in the morning about 5 o'clock and I would just start writing. I'd write for a couple hours. And they were letters at first. And then I would take my kids to school and then go to the studio and start painting. What I was writing was bringing back memories, which was bringing back paintings. I started making images because that's what I do. Even the writing process wasn't even a traditional writing process. It was me finding the images in my head and then literally dictating what was happening in my head to my device. I'm, in school, I had all kinds of learning disabilities. And what I learned was that for me to be able to write what I need to write, I actually have to do it audibly first, and then I can put it on the page. But if I'm looking at the page, I'm so visual that I'm distracted by the composition of the page itself. So years ago, I realized that all writing that I do has to be dictated first, and then I can put it on the page after the creative part has already happened. So that's the first part of your question. The second part of your question is that I committed to being a painter who was making a film.
Okay.
Right. So like I'm not a painter. When I started the project, I started interviewing cinematographers. I didn't talk about lenses because I don't know shit about lenses. I didn't talk about camera bodies. So if you want to come up to me after and talk about all this stuff, forget about it. I said to my cinematographer, Lachlan, who was just absolutely brilliant, I said, in our first conversation, I said, what's your favorite museum? I said, what's your favorite painting in that museum? Tell me about the light in that painting. What part of the frame is it coming from? Okay, tell me why you like that. And so our conversations were about developing a language from the language I already knew. I know the language of form, color, and composition from painting. And so it wasn't about me trying to be a filmmaker as much as it was translating my world as a painter into moving image. So painting in motion is really what I was thinking about.
Okay. Film is always a collaborative process, right?
It most definitely is.
I would assume painting is less collaborative than
Painting is
labor.
less collaborative.
So
Absolutely. I don't need anybody.
I would like you to talk a little bit about when I've heard, I've heard you do several talks on this, and I've talked to Andre. I want to know, what was your collaboration process like? Like, you've got some real heavyweight talent, undisputed, in this film, and they're not new to this.
No.
But they're true to this, right?
No.
What did you do first time director? I want to know about that.
I mean, I first of all, Andre is more brilliant than people actually understand.
NYU alum, y'all.
I think he is one of the most underrated actors in his category. He's absolutely extraordinary, and he gives himself to the entire process. So when I came to him, I said, I want you. And there's a whole story behind that. But when I came to him and said that, I said, you're going to have to learn how to paint. We ain't going to fake it. I was like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't want to do that thing in movies where you have a situation where, you have a shot of his hands because he's playing piano, and then you have a shot of his face, but you never have a wide shot because we know he's not actually playing. So for 3 months, Andre came to my studio and I taught him how to paint. I made the paintings in the film, but I needed him to be able to move the brush, to put paint on canvas, so that when he's in the scene, he believes it, right? Because if he believes it, then you'll believe it. And he believed it because I made him do all the exercises. I made him read the books. I mean, he was down to do it. He's extraordinary. And so the truth is that is one of the biggest difference about painting and film is I can just wake up in the morning, go to my studio and paint, and I don't need anybody.
Right.
But the story doesn't come to life until you put it into other people's hands in film. And I chose extraordinary people to go on that journey with. Ingenue is, I mean, y'all already know. I mean, she's incredible. There's a piece of advice that my director, directing coach, I call him, Derek Cianfrance, who did Blue and Valentine, he said to me, he said, you know, the most important thing you can do as a director starts with casting. And so you need to choose people you trust, make them feel safe, and get out the way. And that was my mantra. That's what I did. And so at so many different stages, the reason this film is what it is because I got out the way and let them do what they needed to do.
I have a question. It might be a little personal. For me, this was one of the most complex, honest, beautiful, and frightening explorations of Black masculinity I have ever seen on screen, ever. It cuts to the white meat. It really does. And so I just really want to know, were there ever moments where you were actually frightened of what you were creating, what you were putting out there, what you saw in the dailies?
So first, this is not the documentary. I already made the documentary. And that was a very difficult experience. I felt incredibly vulnerable. I still feel very vulnerable with this, but with that, it was different. Yeah, it was really difficult to do that. And there were moments where I felt like, I don't know if I want to say that, but I also was doing this for my sons. And as they leave my house, I wanted to impart something to them. And I wanted them to see that struggle of what it meant to be a Black man in the world and how we engage and being able to be engaged with all aspects of your emotions, right? And you see that in this film. You see joy, you see peace, you see anger. And I went through that whole array of emotions while shooting the film. And even though it's not a documentary, I mean, there are plenty of ways that this is different from my life. There are the father-son part of it that is as close to the documentary as I would allow it to be. And there were moments where we were shooting, like, for example, the office scene where André is talking to LeRon. That scene didn't happen in the gallery. That scene happened at my studio. My father just showed up to my studio, drove from Michigan and showed up and said almost verbatim all of that stuff. I know almost verbatim because after that was over, I was like, what just happened? And I sat down and just wrote it down because I was like, did I just experience what I thought I experienced? But the truth of the matter is when it happened, I felt more in touch with the anger than I did any other emotion. But actors make different choices. You give them the words and they make choices. And so where I was connected to the anger, André was connected to the loss, the sorrow, the pain of his mother being gone. And so in the film, there's a conflation of my mother and my grandmother. My grandmother's the one who passed. My mother is very much alive. And that is what André was connected to in that moment. And so when we started shooting that scene, and I watched my friend go through the exact same thing that I went through, it just broke me. Like I started sobbing and I couldn't stop crying. I was embarrassed. I was like, hearing my father's voice in my head, boy, we gotta work. All these people waiting for you and you over here crying. What's wrong with you? Get up, we gotta work. And so I had to leave. I left the set. I was gone for half an hour. I laid down in a dark room and just sobbed, just cried, just waves of tears just coming over me. First, it was just anger. I was pissed. I was like, boy, what's wrong with you, man? Get up. What you doing right now? And then it like calmed. And I just said, okay, we're here. I'm just gonna cry, we're here. I'm just, okay, this is what's happening right now. And, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes later, I walked out of the room and my cast hugged me up and said, we got you. Let's get it. And that had more impact on me and, you know, how I think about my own emotions, how I deal with my own emotions than the actual incident itself. So it's just a real experience to take pieces of your life and put those words on a page and then put them into somebody else's mouth. It's very, very strange. And you know, I don't even know if I advise it, to be honest with you. There's you know, Andre's so good, it's real. Andre's not acting. Like, he's conjuring. There's something different that's going on. When you work with a great actor, it's different. It's not for play. If there's pain on the page, there is pain in his body. You know, I remember we were first talking about it, and Andre said, you know, my body doesn't know I'm acting. So you have to find ways to pull yourself out of that trauma. And in that sense, I feel like actors are heroes. You know, they take on our pain for a catharsis for us. That's real. I would never do that. So I mean, I like y'all, but I don't like you like that. So I mean, I think when it's done in that way, it's an incredible thing.
I promise I'm not going to hog the mic and I'm going to throw it out. But I just want to add, before I throw it out to the audience, we do our back and forth. As a painter, you paint, you kind of famous, you paint, you know, people want to see what you paint. This film got incredible reviews at Sundance. Incredible. I started checking them immediately. And still, there was a long wait to see if anyone was actually going to buy it. I know that was new for you. Yes, we are. So I want to know for you, like, how was that? That's different. How'd you deal?
I don't like Hollywood. I mean, I don't know. So remember I said I'd tell you about the whole Andre thing? I had to fight for Andre. You know, I wrote the script. We sent it out to the regular funders, and they were like, oh, the script is amazing. We love this. This is fantastic. So if you cast these 5 people, we're ready to make your film. How are you going to tell me who's going to play my father? What if I don't want that person? But what if that's not the person that I feel is right for this role? Well, you know, if we're going to make money, we have to have these 5 people. But these 5 people went in everything already. Why would we do that? And I'm sorry, Michael B. Jordan is not as good as André Holland. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, but he'll get people to the theaters. I'm making art. All I know how to do is make art. That's what I do. Getting people to the theaters, I don't know nothing about that. But being honest and vulnerable with that stuff that's inside you that you don't know where to put, I've been doing that my whole career. So I can't take your money. And my producers were like, Titus, first of all, we're going to talk to him and we'll get back to you tomorrow. And then we had a little breakaway, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I like, you know, I'm doing okay as a painter. I don't have a reputation as a filmmaker. I have a reputation as an artist, period. I only fail if I don't make art. So I can't go into this like this. So they were trying to convince me to get somebody else. And I said, no, I want Andre. I want Andre. And then same thing happened with John. John, who like killed it. Like, he is so unreal. John just sent in a self-tape. Kim Coleman, my casting director, She just sent it to me with a bunch of others. And I was watching. And then I saw John's and I was like, whoa, who is this? And then I told some of the other team and they were like, well, nobody really knows who he is. He's not really famous. I'm like, y'all doing that shit again. What are we, like, he is extraordinary. Like, I'm in tears watching the self-tape. What are you talking about? And so they literally would not give me his contact information. I'm not even playing. They would not give me his contact information. They had a conversation amongst themselves and they're like, look, if we give him contact information, we're never going to be able to get him to look at anybody else. So while they were messing around doing that, I found out that he didn't have really any like on-screen experience, but he had a lot of stage experience. And so not just stage experience, August Wilson's stage experience. So August Wilson put him in radio golf. Now, that was August Wilson's last play. And you know where that play took place? Where he workshopped that play? At Yale. Do you know what black man watched that other black man on stage as a student? I didn't know it until we were on set together the first day. But so what happened was they wouldn't give me the number, but I found out that he was in theater. So I called my boy Tarrell, which is why the character's name is Tarrell. Tarrell Alvin McCraney. Y'all know who he is? Okay. So I called Tarrell because we were at Yale together, and I said, yo, do you know this guy named John Earl Jelks? He said, oh, yeah, for sure. He's a beast. I said, you got his number? So I got the number. I called John. And John's like, who is this? I said, it's Titus Kaphar. Listen, hold up. I ain't got a whole lot of time. Let me talk to you for a second. So the people who want us to be talking right now. Are you around this weekend? He said, I live in Chicago. I said, I'll be in Chicago this weekend. He said, yeah, I'll be around. I flew to Chicago. I spent 2 days with him. We ran lines. We just ran lines. I recorded him on phone. I came back and I said, this is my dude. And they were like, you went to Chicago? So I don't like Hollywood. I don't. I don't like how they make decisions. I don't like what they fund. I don't like the things that they support. I don't like the fact that in order to even be considered, y'all probably don't even know this. My producers who've been producing for 20 years didn't know this. But let's say that you have a film that you've just made. Are any filmmakers in here? Okay, so let's say you have a film that you just made and you want to, I don't know, get your film considered for an Oscar because your actors are dope or something like that, right? Do you know that to get your film considered for an Oscar, you have to pay like $20,000 just to get your film on their website so that they can watch it? Then that's not enough. That's not enough. So in order for them to watch it, you got to remind them because it's there, but they don't watch every movie that's up. So you can be a voter and vote for a thing that you have never seen. And that happens a lot. So in order to get their attention, you have to send them an email to remind them to watch the film. But you can only send them an email for this specific network. And of course, that costs $2,000 per email. I'm preaching now. So if you want them to watch it, then you have to pay that $2,000. But if you're a truly independent film and to pay for the film, you, Titus Kaphar, raise the money yourself. To do the Oscar campaign, you, Titus Kaphar, pull money out your own pocket to make that happen, then you can't really compete with the enormous.
Right.
They got $30 million in order to do their Oscar campaign. I'm trying to scrape together $2,000 just to make sure y'all see the film. We have a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. These actors did an amazing. This is not about me. Like I can walk away from this and go back to my studio and paint and be very happy with my life. But I watched this cast give me everything. So I felt obliged to go out there and fight for them. And then realize, oh, this is not a fair fight. This is not a fair fight at all, at all, at all. And so it became more important to me to do this, to do these kinds of events and make sure community, to make sure folk get to see this film, to get to engage with this film. That's what really matters to me. All this other nominations and all of that other stuff, I'm done with that. That's not what it's about for me.
Got it. So my very nice staff has given me the 1 minute remaining sign.
Right.
Does that mean 1 minute for me?
If y'all gotta go, you have to go. You're not gonna film.
No. You guys get to ask questions, but they're telling me, Joan, it's time to shut up. So, can we take some questions from the audience, please? Yes.
Hi, my name is Amara, and I just want to thank you for your film. It was very touching,
Thank you.
and a lot of it I even resonated with, like with my own childhood and just different things. So I was very teary-eyed at some moments, but I've seen some of your other paintings, like in Washington DC, where I'm from, and I wanted to ask what happens to the pieces that you cut out, because like they make you wonder. Because I know that like you deal with making sure that history is in the present. So when those women or like the presidents or whoever is missing from the pieces, do you keep them and use them, or do you just keep them to hold on to them?
That's a really good question. I have a storage full of these characters. Sometimes they wind up in other paintings. They engage with other projects. I never just throw them away though. And in this one in particular, you know, that moment was so symbolic in this film. And that happened in the script. I knew, in the writing, I knew that was coming, because it was really about this character going back into his past and rescuing himself. That we each have a traumatic moment that we play again and again and again and again. And maybe you go to a therapist who walks you through a process where you re-enter that moment, and the therapist says to you, who would you bring in the room to protect you in that moment? And maybe the person you bring into the room is your adult self. And so essentially that's what's happening in that moment. So those cutouts and the significance of them wouldn't allow me to just throw them away. So they exist.
Yes.
Hello.
It's really helpful hearing you talk about your experience dealing with Hollywood. I'm always so interested with artists, like how you deal with the business and industry side of things. And that scene is so striking where the main character is dealing with all of these wealthy people who buy his art. And I would love to hear a little bit about your experience navigating the art industry and like selling your art.
Oh, you thought the Hollywood question was hard.
I just went in. Okay. My mother would require me to start the answer this way. I know I'm blessed. Okay. I'm very lucky. I make a living from making paintings. It was a dream. I didn't think it was possible. I am very unique in that. Thank you. I started doing it alone in my studio with no audience. Nobody cared what I was doing. And so I learned how to paint through vulnerability. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of people enter the space. And I don't have any other way of making. I've tried. I've really tried, because I don't like being that open. But I don't know how to make work out of anything else right now. Maybe something else will change, but at this moment in my life, that's what happens. So I have to engage that way. I am blessed. People buy the work. And as there are more people who've entered the room, I come to realize that people don't just buy the work because they believe in my politics. People buy the work because it's a good investment. And that's when you realize that is, I don't know what to do about that particular part of it. My last show at Gagosian, one of the biggest paintings in the show sold. It was great. I was able to pay for my kids' school. I was able to make sure mom had her space, got her a little pool. You know, she's doing all right. She don't even swim. Like, it's good. And then you find out, I don't know where y'all stand on this, I don't really care, but then you find out that the person who bought that is one of Trump's biggest supporters. What? What? Right? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I told my mother about it, and what she said is, what they do with their money is not your business. What are you going to do with your money? And so, Next Haven, right? The not-for-profit, engaging the community in those kinds of ways, making sure that if I do have it, I can bring it back to the neighborhood, make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing there. I don't have any control of what those people do with their money, right? I would like to say only good people are allowed to buy my shit. I would really like to say that. If we wouldn't kick it, then you can't have my artwork. I would love to do that. It would definitely decrease my budget quite a bit. But what I have reconciled in myself is that I will do the best I can with what comes to me and try to make sure that I can make things better for the community that I'm a part of. That's some solace, I guess.
It's a question all the way in the back.
I just wanted to say that the film really spoke to me deeply, and I really I don't know if your paintings like a few months ago. I think you had a really distinctive style, and I was just wondering when you started to feel like you came into your voice as an artist and started to really find how you paint. It's specific to you, and it's not mimicking how other people paint. Yeah.
It's an interesting question because that happened out of a kind of rebellion, a resistance rather. And so the question that I'm asking myself in the studio is, what does my work look like when it is not coming from a space of resistance, but it's just coming from a space of joy? Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is I don't know yet. I'm still working through that. But I started because I had an art history professor in undergrad who decided that it was not important to talk about the Black section in the art history book. It was a survey art history book, and she decided that she was going to skip over the entire thing. Mm-hmm. And being that I was maybe one other Black kid in the class, I was like, this is important information to me. I would really like you to teach us it. And she said no. I went to the dean. I tried to get the dean to push her to teach it. He said, I can't force her to teach anything. And so I realized in that moment that if I wanted this history, I was going to have to make my own bibliography. I was going to have to find my own books. I was going to have to find my own teachers. And so I went through this process of painting for the purpose of learning. So I went through every single painting in that section and repainted that painting to understand it. I started creating performances based on that book. And my sort of mature art grew out of that. Out of this space of resistance. And I'm proud of the work that I've made. And I'm also trying to see what this other moment looks like for me, this joy. What does that look like on canvas?
Yes. No, you.
Okay.
Hi.
Two-part thing. First, just thank you so much. I feel such inspiration from this evening. I'm very curious about what you just said about moving from these two different places, moving toward the joy place. Because what I experienced watching you tell this journey is such a place of peace. Mm. And that is something that is just miraculously inspiring in a moment like this. So thank you for that. And then the second thing is just a quick shout out about Joan Jelks. I have to just keep the conversation on him for a minute. If people don't know, the film that he started in 1999, Compensation, by LA Rebellion filmmakers and Irene Davis. She showed her film at Sundance in 1999. Yep. It is now getting its first distribution.
Oh my God.
Go tonight or tomorrow to Lincoln Center and see that film and see Joan Jelks as the leading man.
Yep.
It is a profound film.
89.
What's that?
89. Yes.
1989.
Yeah, 99 is
99
actually
rather,
what it
yes.
showed at
Yes.
Sundance, but they made it even earlier, yeah. But so just so you can feast on that mastery again, please go see this film. It's a rare chance. I'm holding the button right now. 'Cause I'm this weekend. Go see Compensation. But this is beautiful to me, this moment, and it's a hopeful moment because what you just shared was that, you know, where is the love for the film? But guess what? We generate the love for these films. We keep them in circulation.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so inspired by you. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I think, first of all, definitely go see that because it's an absolutely beautiful film. And it also just goes to show how long someone could, you know, be in this and not get the attention of the commercial world. So that's a whole different thing. Part of the reason why, when I accepted the idea that I was making a film, that I got excited about it was because, number one, film is much more democratically accessible of a medium than painting. You know, I let's say I have an exhibition at Gagosian Gallery. Let's say the exhibition is really, really popular. 1,000 people come? 2,000 people come? If 2,000 people see your film, you have absolutely failed, right? like in the film world. And so our first screening of the film at Sundance was 1,500 people there. Then the second screening was 1,500 people. And the third screening was 500 people. And then we did another screening, and there were 2,000 people when we showed it in Birmingham. So, like, people watch films and access film in a way that they don't with painting. We all have some experience with movies. Not all of us have an experience with an art gallery, an art museum. The art gallery and the art museum don't make you feel welcome half the time when you show up. So for this, I know I didn't surprise you. Then you know, stop playing. Okay. So my point is just that for me, the idea of being able to access people through this medium gave me something different. And I think the way that I was able to tell the story does access these joys. Like, the most important part of my life is not that I'm a painter, it's that I'm a father. That's like I love being a dad, right? After the experience that I had, I was determined I'm gonna be a really good dad. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. That's why I'm leaving after this, because I gotta get home because I need to be there when they wake up. That's what I do. And so to be able to share that on screen in this artistic format did give me an opportunity to express in a way that I don't often do in painting, just because I haven't quite figured out how to do that yet in a way that I am interested in the thing that I make after.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'm curious to know, like, if and how during the process of making the film, your understanding of forgiveness evolved at any point. You could just shed some light.
Any writers in the audience? So, if you are writing a script and you sit down and you decide, okay, he's the bad guy, right? You just start out there, he's the bad guy. You're not gonna have a good story. That's not enough. That's not how real people work. Most people who are doing bad things don't think they're doing bad things. They're doing the best that they can do. And so question number one becomes, like, what are the circumstances around this character that's motivating these actions? I never asked that about my father. I was struggling with just trying to figure out why he was doing the shit he was doing. But when I sat down to write this in fiction form, I had to ask that question. And so what is the answer to that question? The answer to that question is my family left Mississippi to move up north to get those good jobs. They moved up to Michigan in a part of town where there were lots of factories. And then within a generation or two, because they came at the end of that, all of those jobs were gone, deindustrialization. So while deindustrialization, this other thing is happening, crack cocaine is coming into my neighborhood, into my community at that exact time. Okay, enter in our character, right? Now we meet LaRon, right? So my understanding of forgiveness changed fundamentally. There's two things. One is that. The second thing is we have this idea that forgiveness and reconciliation are the same thing. We conflate the words. They're not the same. You can forgive somebody who's dead and gone. You may never have a reconciliation, but you can forgive them. That means I'm letting go of this burden. I'm not carrying this anymore. This shit is too heavy. I'm done with it. I release you from this. That's what that means. That's the kind of forgiveness this film is talking about. What it doesn't mean is it doesn't mean that we have to go fishing after this. It doesn't mean that we're going to go sit down in a bar and have a drink together. That's not what it means. It may never be able to be that way. You might get that opportunity, but you just might not. But that's not the point. If you want to be free, you have to figure out how to forgive. The reconciliation is secondary, but you have to figure out how you're going to forgive.
There's 1 minute remaining, so I'm gonna let you have the last question. That's not true. I'm gonna ask the last question, but this is the last question from the audience.
Hi.
My question is back to the film, and if you can talk a little bit about.
Who are you, by the way? I'm just messing with you. What's up? Frank.
I'm curious about how you thought about place in the film, because I was struck that I didn't concretely know where we were.
Yeah.
There was a beauty in not knowing where we were.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about how you thought about that, how you had this moment of, I'm not gonna place us anywhere. You have deep roots in Detroit and other places and in New Haven, and I kind of feel like it was perhaps an amalgam of those places.
Taxes. It was all about taxes. It was taxes. Like, I would like it to be all philosophical, but it was taxes. Like, basically, no, I'm just playing. It's more complicated than that. But that was the beginning of it. So I wanted to shoot back home. And when I went back to Michigan, Michigan had canceled all their tax credits. So my film was going to be 30% more to shoot in Michigan. Nope, can't do that. So then I was like, oh, let's shoot in New Haven because that's where I live right now. They had canceled their tax credits. I was like, damn, okay. And so then it did become a kind of philosophical question. And I had to ask myself, okay, what is the disadvantage of not being able to shoot those places? And what's the advantage? And the advantage rang very loud, which is it becomes more universal. This is not an issue that's just happening in my hometown. This is an issue that's happening all over the country. So the more I can open up that possibility for you to insert your experience in it by not making it like Manhattan, right? Then you can enter in. And so I decided to lean into that. So yes, I clearly pulled away, all of those specifics. Even y'all are probably looking for the license plate. You're like, okay, maybe we can figure it out from the license plate. But yeah, I got rid of that too.
So for the final question, we've been working on a project at the Center for Black Visual Culture called the Black Rest Project, where we've really been exploring with a group of incredible collaborators, some of which are in the audience, shout out Young Arts, to really explore rest as a resistance practice. And I read today somewhere that you don't know how to rest. So I want to know if you figured that out yet.
No. I'm trying, y'all. I swear. I mean, look, it's complicated. In many ways, if this film taught me that, but that for all that my father did wrong, all he wanted to do was teach me a work ethic. And I don't agree with the methods by which he did that. But I have to confess that I would not be up here if it wasn't for that. Because usually when it gets hard, I know how to work through that. I know how to push through that. I know how to go, yes, you're in pain right now, but that's not the point. The point is we got this job to do. We got to get it done. And my father didn't go about it right, but he didn't really lie either. You know what I mean? Like that moment, which my father said to me a lot, you a Black boy. Ain't nobody ever gonna feel bad for you. You gotta figure that out right now. So what I am doing is I'm making sure my children are not raised with that as a mentality, that they are engaged in rest, that they play, that we actually, I never, I have zero memories of me and my father doing anything but work. That's all we did was work. So I don't know what I can do for myself unless you got a vacation plan for me. But I can ensure that the next generation will not go through what the last generation went through.
Ladies and gentlemen, Titus Kaphar.